UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has expressed deep concern over Indian military operations across the line of control and the international border with Pakistan, calling for military restraint from both countries.
안토니우 구테흐스 유엔 사무총장이 통제선 및 파키스탄 국경을 넘어 실시된 인도의 군사 작전에 깊은 우려를 표명하면서 인도와 파키스탄 양국의 군사력 행사 자제를 촉구했습니다. Again, we're seeing some urging going on here. Tell us more.
Yeah, so there have been some terror attacks, including one that killed at least 26 civilians and injured many more. So some conflicts taking place along the border of India and Pakistan. So they call the area there the line of control. I guess you could say between the two Koreas, we have the DMZ or the demilitarized zone. So they have a similar area that they're calling the line of control.
네, 군사 통제선이 되겠죠. Let's have a look at this first expression here, and that is to express deep concern.
When you have concern for something, then you're thinking about it. You might be worried about it, but it's on your mind. And there's something that, you're either worried or there's something that you wish you could do something about it. And it does mention deep concern. I guess you could say big concern as well, but I think deep concern is kind of showing you it's not just a small surfacey thing, but because it goes deep, it is a bigger concern, of great concern. He is considerably worried about what is going on.
그래요. Express deep concern은 깊은 우려를 나타내다라는 뜻인데 the region in question is Kashmir, right? And both India and Pakistan say the whole region belongs to us. And, they say the same thing on each side, but don't control the whole area. And I guess that's why we're seeing these conflicts. What is restraint?
Restraint is to hold back from doing something perhaps that you might want to do, sort of like resisting temptation. If you want to do something, but you're holding back, you're not going to do it because you know that it's for the better good.
자제라는 뜻이 있습니다. 그래서 여기서 뭐라고 했었냐면은 the UN Secretary-General is calling for restraint from both countries. So don't attack so much, or just don't attack at all, I guess, if possible, because civilians are losing lives from this.
Often we'll hear from courts about something called a restraining order.
Yep.
Yeah, and that means, okay, you're not allowed to go near this person. So it's like maybe you might want to get closer and be within the vicinity of that person or approach them or talk to them, but there's going to be something, a restraining order does not allow you to do that. So if you do get too close to that person, then you could be in trouble with the law.
맞아요. 자, 지금 여기서 말하는 restraining order는 접근 금지 명령입니다. 그러니까 이제 뭔가 위협적인 행동을 했다든지 이제 dangerous한 행동이 느껴지고 그것으로 인한 threat가 이제 감지가 됐을 때 이런 것을 신청할 수 있고 또 restraining order가 내려질 수도 있겠죠. 그렇지만 restraint 자체는 자제. 그러니까 접근 금지 명령도 그러니까 어떻게 보면은 그 사람이 알아서 접근하지 말아라 이런 의미도 있지만 또 이게 강제로 강제성이 있기도 해서 이 단어를 생각하면서 해석을 하면 좀 복잡해지니까 그냥 외우시는 게 나을 수도 있습니다. A restraining order. Okay. Let me read the headline one more time. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has expressed deep concern over Indian military operations across the line of control and the international border with Pakistan, calling for military restraint from both countries. Let's move on to the next headline.
The original Korean musical, Maybe Happy Ending, created by writer Park Chun-hue and composer Will Aronson, has been named Best Musical at the 89th Annual New York Drama Critics Circle Awards.
박천휴 작가와 윌 에런슨 작곡가가 만든 한국 뮤지컬 어쩌면 해피엔딩이 제89회 뉴욕 드라마 비평가 협회 어워즈에서 뮤지컬 부문 최고상을 받게 됐습니다. Wow, I didn't know about this one, and I love musicals, so tell us more.
Yes, this received 15 out of the 23 votes from the voters in this. And the award here, it's actually been around since 1936. It is the second oldest American playwright honor after the Pulitzer.
Wow. Well, the musical itself may be happy ending. Doesn't really tell us much about the storyline, but I looked into it a little bit, and it's very futuristic. It's apparently about a robot called Oliver who falls in love with a girl called Claire. So we have sort of like this, very fitting theme of, I don't know if it's AI, but a robot and human falling in love and hoping that things will end up happily ever after, I suppose. I don't know what else happens because they're not giving any spoilers in the article I read.
Yeah.
But it sounds really, really interesting.
Perhaps a good thing. But certainly some very good accolades. It's also received 10 nominations for the Tony Awards. And the Tony Awards are basically like the Academy Awards of musicals.
It's the biggest award for musicals. And so if you're able to somehow get an Emmy, Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony, then they call you an EGOT.
An EGOT.
E-G-O-T, which is the first letter of each of the awards. But it's really hard to do because that means you have to have been in a good film, musical, and all of these other things. And
song performance.
Yeah, exactly.
As well as television.
Yep. So there aren't many EGOTs, as you can imagine, in Hollywood, but there are some. I'll have to look up who they are, actually, now that I've mentioned it. But yeah, let's look at this expression here. The first one is original.
Original is sort of like the first to do something. I mean, you think of like a pioneer when you're the first to do something. But when you have an original, it's sort of like if there's a lot of different versions of something, then the original would be among those the first person to do something. Or it could also be, it's like saying that you're not a copy. Right? So like if you have a song that's been sung by 5 other people, but you were the first one to sing that song or to write the song, yours is the original while the other people kind of copied your song.
그래요. 창작 뮤지컬이라는 뜻으로 여기서 쓰인 겁니다. 어디서 카피를 한 게 아니라 자신이 원작을 만든 그런 창작 뮤지컬이죠.
Yeah, you'll often hear a sarcastic line. If you say something that's very obvious, then someone might say, "Oh, well, that's original," and it's being said in a sarcastic way, meaning like that's such an obvious thing that everyone says. Like, why don't you be a little more original? Create something yourself rather than copying what other people say.
Original의 뜻이 원래는 독창적이다이니까. 그러면 좀 비꼬듯이 너 참 독창적이구나. 하나도 아닐 때 이렇게 말할 수 있겠군요. What about annual?
Annual just means that it's every year. So in this particular case, we're talking about the 89th annual New York Drama Critics Circle Awards. So they do this each year.
매해 뭔가를 할 때 it's an annual event or an occasion. 여기서는 the annual awards라고 하고 있네요. 그래서 연례 행사.
Yeah, you think of like the word anniversary. And, an anniversary is something that you celebrate every year from the date of which you got married or other events. And it has the same sort of base word in there, right? Annual, anniversary. It's got the same sound. So think of that when you're thinking of this word.
그래요. Annual, anniversary 같이 연상해서 기억하시면 되겠습니다. I do have the list of EGOT winners, and there's only 21 so far in history. Some famous names include Whoopi Goldberg, Audrey Hepburn, John Legend. Who else might you know? You probably know more than me, actually. Elton John, Jennifer Hudson, and Liza Minnelli and Barbra Streisand.
Barbra Streisand.
So you can imagine these people, they sing, they act, they're on TV, they're in movies, they
Very
do
talented.
Everything. Yeah. All right. Well, here is the headline again. The original Korean musical Maybe Happy Ending, created by writer Park Chun-hue and composer Will Aronson, has been, Park Chun-hue, excuse me there, and composer Will Aronson has been named the best musical at the 89th Annual New York Drama Critics Circle Awards. Now here's our final headline.
The San Diego Zoo Safari Park in California has welcomed a newborn male Maasai giraffe, an endangered species whose population in the wild has declined by 30% over the past 35 years.
미국 샌디에이고 동물원에서 어린 수컷 마사이 기린이 태어났습니다. 마사이 기린은 지난 35년 동안 야생 개체 수가 30% 감소하는 등 멸종 위기종으로 분류되는 동물입니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, so the calf was born on April the 23rd, and this is an endangered species, so certainly very good news for anyone involved, certainly with the zoo as well as just animal lovers in general. And as mentioned, 30% that the species has gone down over the past 35 years, and a lot of that is being attributed to loss of habitat and difficult human-wildlife coexistence. So you could say that humans are actually taking a role in the reason for that.
그래요. 거주 서식지가 많이 줄어들고 있고 인간과 공존하는 것이 좀 쉽지 않다 보니까 이 마사이 기린의 개체수가 많이 줄어들고 있군요. 이 서식지를 habitat라고 하고요. 그다음에 아기 기린을 아까 calf라고 하셨는데 calf 소의 아기, 송아지도 calf지만 기린 아기 기린도 calf군요.
Yeah. We actually went to the San Diego Zoo Safari Park for our honeymoon some 10, 12 years ago. And they have 3 different parks there. So there's like the San Diego Zoo, that's world famous as one of the big zoos. There's the SeaWorld, which is like a really big aquarium that used to have orcas. And then they have the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, which is kind of where you can see the animals in their natural habitat or a recreated natural habitat, I should say, as opposed to just kind of being in a cage.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a little more interesting to see the animals there. I remember, you can feed the giraffes there and stuff. So, yeah, just like you can in Korea as well, by the way.
Do you drive through like an African safari?
There's different ways that you can traverse the terrains. Like they have, different like segways that you can ride. I think there was like maybe a bicycle option. There were cars because it is large. So there's different ways. I think there might have been a zip line that you can do. So lots of different options of how you're going to kind of walk around that area.
Let me just add this to my bucket list. San Diego Zoo Safari Park. Okay. Let's have a look at some expressions. Endangered.
Endangered meaning that there are not many of these animals around anymore. Certainly to the point where, the fear of everyone is for any of these species to be extinct, which would mean that they no longer exist. So if you lose them completely, then we no longer have these animals available to us. So if an animal is endangered, then it's kind of at risk of becoming extinct.
Endangered가 위험에 처했다라는 단어이지만 보통은 멸종 위기에 처했다라고 보시면 됩니다. 특히 species와 같이 붙어서 멸종 위기종, endangered species라고 하죠.
You can use it differently. Like you might complain to someone, you endangered us, or you endangered this project from failing. So you can say that you put us in danger.
Got it.
But typically we think of endangered species, we think of animals that are in danger of becoming extinct.
Right. And animals can be domesticated or they could live in the wild.
Yeah, and if you're in the wild, you're talking about an area where animals are in their natural environment as opposed to being in a human-created environment like cities or urban areas with homes and stuff. So it's just in the wild, meaning that you don't have human buildings and stuff. It's more where animals animals can live in their own natural ecosystem.
I think in the Jungle Book, was it Mowgli?
Yep.
Mowgli?
Mowgli the bear?
Mowgli.
Oh, no,
the
sorry.
boy.
Mowgli was the boy.
Yeah.
Baloo was the bear.
Yeah, he lived in the wild.
That's
though.
right.
He didn't live in a house
Yeah.
like other boys. 야생에서, 황야에서라는 의미의 in the wild. 자, 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. The San Diego Zoo Safari Park in California has welcomed a newborn male Maasai giraffe, an endangered species whose population in the wild has declined by 30% over the past 35 years. Well, that's it for the headlines with Jason Lee.